So hello everyone, welcome to the Confident Communicator Connect Series. Today I'm so thrilled to welcome Roopa Pai, one of India's best known children's authors. Her books, which range from fiction to non-fiction and picture books to chapter books, cover a wide range of themes and are enjoyed as much by adults as children. The Gita for Children is on Amazon India's list of 100 Indian books to read in a lifetime. And I would definitely recommend reading it aloud, even with those pesky teenagers. She's also a TEDx speaker. Her talk, Decoding the Gita, India's Book of Answers, has garnered over 1.4 million views. When she is not writing, this computer engineer can be found leading history and heritage walks for students and children around her beloved Bangalore as part of her job as director of BangaloreWalks.com. And she has most recently co-authored Made in India, a memoir with supermodel, entrepreneur, Ultraman, and fitness evangelist, Milind Soman. As you know, we've been doing a series of interviews with women of substance like Roopa, who are making the choice of living their life their way. So Roopa, thank you so much for joining me today. It's truly a privilege. Welcome.
Thank you so much. My pleasure, entirely my pleasure.
Let's jump into the first question. Tell us about your journey from computer engineer to best-selling science fiction author to spiritual researcher of the Gita, the Vedas and the Upanishads to writing India's ultra hunk Milind Soman's memoir.
Okay. Yeah, it has been quite a journey, but until somebody actually says that to me, I don't feel it. It's all been so organic. And, I haven't thought about it so much. It's just happened one thing after the other. I had always wanted to be a writer, but I grew up in 80s, 90s India where, parents, especially South Indian middle class parents, said absolutely no literature and humanities and all that, because humanities in the north is still considered very privileged and very, like if you go to get into Stephens or the Hindu or Lady Shri Ram, it's considered like really good. But somehow in the south, it was always science has the highest, pedestal. So my mom was a very feisty mom, and no daughter of mine is going to ever have to depend on a man and stuff like that. You have to be able to stand on your own feet. And for that, you have to do a professional degree. So you may not use it, but it's a fallback. Whenever you want to use it, it's there. So just to please her, I did engineering. So I did the degree and then handed over the degree to her when it came and said, now you can put it in your puja room and do aarti to it. But now that I have done what you wanted me to do, I'm gone. I moved cities. I got married first. And my only brief to my husband, my then boyfriend, was that, whatever campus interview you go for, only go for Delhi-based jobs, because I need to be in Delhi. Why? Because there's a children's magazine there, which I really loved reading growing up, and I want to work for them. I mean, it was as random as that. It was just like, I hadn't asked them whether they had a job for me. I had no idea what Delhi was like, but I just wanted to go there because that was my dream job and I had to work with Target magazine. And sweetly, I mean, I don't know, he agreed and he only applied for jobs in Delhi. I walked into the office at Target and I realized, my God, what it seemed from Bangalore, like this magazine, this monthly magazine was coming out every month full of beautiful stories. And it seemed to me like there must be a huge team behind it. They must have a posh office. I had no idea. And when I went there, it was part of India Today. And when I went there, it was a little corridor, end of a corridor that they'd given Target a room. There were only 9 employees, only 3 people in the editorial department. But when I went in and I said that, I need a job, imagine my luck, just this whole belief that I want this to happen. I walked in, nobody ever quits Target once they joined, okay? But the week I walked in, the previous week, one of the editorial staff had left. And there was a place for me. And of course, then then of course I had to do the interview and everything. But the fact that there was a place, so that happened. Earlier I used to be an Enid Blyton devotee, and she really taught me how to write an interesting story and how to keep the attention of young people and all that, and also morals and all the rest of it. But the only disadvantage of reading Enid Blyton so much, with being raised entirely on a diet of Enid Blyton, was that I grew up thinking that only British children have cool childhoods, and my childhood was somehow sucky, not as good. And it took me to get to the age of 13 or something, discover Target magazine, find out that all their stories were about kids like me, and they all from Indian cities, and they all seem to be having wonderful lives, except that their lives are exactly like my own. And I said, so maybe I'm actually having a good life. I never realized this. And then I said, this is what I want to do. I want to write for Target magazine. I want to write for children. And I want to write Indian stories for Indian children, so that another generation doesn't grow up being seduced by the West and their stories. I moved to London, and then I had children, the US, various things happened. And I kept writing for children's magazines and things, but not very much. Again, with little children, it was difficult. And then I came back to Bangalore, and suddenly my ex-editor from Target magazine contacted me after 10 years of not being in touch and said, hey, I've just joined this publishing house and I want you to write for me again. That person, who I would have never met if I hadn't wanted to work in Target, and then came there and found me after 10 years and said, this is what I want you to do. And then I began to write for her. So Taranauts, which is my sci-fi fantasy adventure. Yes. And I always wanted to write books, but I was quite happy doing features and stories and all that for children, comic strips, games. But I had never sat down to write a novel until she told me to do it. Before that, I had, with my husband, started Bangalore walks as soon as we came back from the US. Because, we said there's so much history in India, so much heritage. And in the US, they celebrate every little bit of history. And the US itself is about 250 years old or whatever at that time.
Yes.
And we are a 5,000-year-old civilization. And we just don't have enough good ways to tell the story of our country to our own children. Forget it, people from outside. So, and especially our own city. With both of us are Bangaloreans, very, very much in love with Bangalore, very attached to the city. And we said, let's tell our story. So that was something we started off. And then this happened, this assignment, about 4-5 years into Bangalore Walks. My editor found me again and said, do Taranauts. 8 books, 4 years it took me to write them. And I'm like, okay, I don't have any more ideas for fiction. What shall I do? And then the fallback was science, because I'm a science student, and that my mom was like, acha. Okay. And then I did a book called What If the Earth Stopped Spinning, and 24 Other Mysteries of Science. So that was a popular science book. And then again, I was at a loose end and thinking what to do, when my editor, Vatsala, again, the same editor who had been with me, who was my very first editor, she said, hey, I have a great idea for you. She said, why don't you do the Bhagavad Gita for children? Wait, hold on a minute. I know nothing about it except what I've read in Amachitra Katha or something. And I have never read the book in its entirety in my life. I did not grow up in a family that had a copy of the book. And I'm like, what gives me the right to interpret this great text, which I only hear from everybody is so deep, so intimidating, so many layers that you have to peel year after year, after being steeped in it for many years. People say that, and this is totally not my scene. I'm not going to do it, And she kept, for some reason, that's why I call her my Sarathi, my Krishna. She steered me into this battlefield, which was so scary for me. And then she kept telling me, you have to do your dharma, you have to write this. And it seemed like that to me once it was written. So I said, okay, I went to an aunt of my husband's, sat with her. She put a few ideas into my head. And one of the main ideas that actually changed my whole, made me want to do it was, she said, you do know that Krishna and Arjuna are best friends, right? And I'm like, oh, no, I thought he was a god and this guy was the devotee or something. Oh, okay. Then if the Gita is a conversation between two best friends, I think I can tell it to children.
Yes.
So that was one first barrier breakdown. And then she gave me a few of her favorite commentaries. She said, why don't you take it and just take a look at it and come back in a week or so, and we'll go further with it. I was so hooked, and I was like fascinated. I was, awed, and just loved it. And by the end of it, I said, my God, this is crazy. This is a book that needs to be told to kids. And it's not just for old people. Kids can benefit so much if you start incorporating these lessons into your life early. I mean, you can have a much better life. Why come to it after you made all your mistakes in life? Start with it. Let it be your companion, let it grow with you. Let it be your mentor, your constant bedside friend. I was terrified. Rick Riordan can write whatever he wants about the Greek gods because they are not relevant anymore in Greece. Nobody worships them. They're just the stuff of mythology. But in India, the Gita is a living, breathing text. You cannot say whatever you like about it or misinterpret it and expect not to be pulled up for it. And then it went out and it became a bestseller. I mean, I haven't had any criticism about it at all. And so I don't know how that happened. I felt very blessed. And even if I read it today, I'm like, I can't believe I wrote this. It seemed to have just used me as a channel to be put out for other people to read and enjoy. What it also did as a professional writer was that it showed me that it's possible to be fearless. If a subject interests you, go to it, open mind, ready to receive, and with no baggage, and it will speak to you. Everything has something to offer. Everybody is your guru. Every subject you can learn something from. And then that's why I attempted my next book was economics. And okay, I don't know anything about it. So the best way to learn something about it is write a book about it for children. Actually, right after the Gita's success, my editor was like, okay, come on, now Vedas and Upanishads. And I'm like, excuse me, I never said I'm some scripture person. I have so many interests and I want to do so many things, and I'm not going back there, not for a very long time, all that. So I did an economics book. I did a book on Krishnadevara of Hampi, a history book. I did a book on life skills for children, but the pull was strong. So after 3 books, I'm like, okay, I've stayed away long enough. I think it's time to plunge back into that landscape, which I had begun to love by then because the Gita had drawn me. And I'm like, okay, let me write the prequel now. Because the Upanishads, the essence of the Upanishads is the Gita. What was the original text from where it was derived? And what did they leave out? Because there might have been so many other things, but there was only this much space. Yeah. So it was interesting. I wanted to see what else the Upanishads said, and so went back, did that. That's also been doing well. And then after that, I said, okay, it's new subject. So we did medicine, 2,500 years of the history of medicine. So basically that, and Milind Soman was like suddenly flash in the pan from somewhere, the Milind Soman book. That's my journey. I've taken like a long time to tell you this whole story.
It's been a long, serendipitous journey almost. Things just seem to have unfolded for you like they were meant to be, and I love it. That is beautiful, and that is so inspiring. One thing I want to say about the Gita is that you didn't just speak to my children. We read it out loud in our family, and you didn't just talk to my children about it. You were talking to me. You demystified it for me. All your writing skills basically brought me back to the Indian way of writing, because even I grew up with Enid Blyton and loved the crumpets and scones. And then the first time I had the crumpets and scones is when I realized, you know what? I'd put it up on this pedestal and it needed to come back down.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying that you feel that there's an Indian essence to everything I write, because that is my attempt. Yeah. Okay.
Everything. Roopa, tell me, I know a lot of your journey has been serendipitous, and I know that you don't have too many regrets. But if you had a chance to do a do-over, what is something you might want to change, or what is some piece of advice that you would give your young adult children as they start out on their journey of life?
If I had a chance to do it over, what would I change about my own life? Absolutely nothing. I'm actually very proud of my 20-year-old self when I look back. because she seemed to have so much clarity about who she wanted to spend her life with, what she wanted to spend her time doing. I still feel the same as I felt at that this was the right person for me, the right life for me, the right job for me. And so that's why in fact, now I feel I don't have that much clarity about what next, which it was so clear to me when I was a younger person. So I guess I've just been lucky. But what to tell to the young adults today is, I would say, take time to reflect and get to know yourself. If I think about the Gita and the metaphor of Krishna and Arjuna, I would say Arjuna is us and Krishna is his deepest, purest instinct, his gut, which advises him on what to do. So it's basically, I feel it's a conversation he was having with himself, and when he had that reflective conversation with himself, these were the answers that emerged for him. If Arjuna hadn't spent so many years befriending Krishna, building this strong relationship with him, hanging out with him such a lot, that by the time he reached the Kurukshetra battle and the biggest dilemma of his life, he trusted his friend so implicitly that he could just lay this dilemma at his feet and say, "Boss, you tell me what to do now.
Correct.
And I'll do what you say. I trust you." So to be able to trust your gut and your instinct so wholly and with so much confidence, you should have done the work, spent the time to get to know yourself. Basically, what does that mean? Like, spend maybe 10 minutes a day before you go to sleep, talking to yourself, reflecting on the day, thinking about the battles you fought, because the battle of Kurukshetra is just the battle that rages in our own heads. The Pandavas live inside us, the Kauravas live inside us. There are always so many more Kauravas than there are Pandavas. And it's so easy to drown out the Pandavas' voices in the shrill cries of the Kauravas inside you, because the Kauravas are always telling you to do something that's easy, convenient, cool, not always what is right and difficult. And the Pandavas are trying to say, no, maybe you should do the other thing, but they are always too few. And basically, the clamor of these two yelling inside you makes you lose your focus. Like Arjuna did, you have to forget about the Pandavas and Kauravas. In the middle of the battlefield, within 2 minutes, the battle is about to start, sun is about to rise. And this man lays down his entire bow and arrow, says, "I won't fight." To create that kind of scene, to have what courage, to say, I don't care who's looking at me. I'm sure my brothers and my side is like looking on in horror what's happened to this guy. And the enemies are already rejoicing that maybe he'll walk away from battle, but he didn't care what they thought. For that moment, he only said to Krishna, "You tell me. I don't care what everybody else thinks." And that's the kind of relationship you must have with your own gut, that you should be able to tell your Pandavas and Kauravas to please shut it, quiet down, because only when they both are quiet will you hear the still small voice of your Krishna. But Krishna will not speak up if you haven't built a friendship with him, and if you haven't listened to him, taken his advice before. Only when you begin to trust your gut and take that advice and you see, hey, that worked for me, only then your trust will increase. And so next time your gut says something, say, okay, let me go with it and see what happens. And the more that happens and the more you begin to trust yourself, and then everybody else's voices will become smaller and smaller and then die out, and you will only hear your own voice and you will trust it. That's my advice to them. Like, if you want to develop clarity in what you want to do, trust your gut, but your gut will only give you the right advice or will speak up at the appropriate times if you have developed a relationship with it. There can be no closer friend than your own Krishna. So you have to trust it.
So well said. That's what we're trying to tell all of the next generation to do, is listen to that inner voice. But in order to listen to the inner voice, the outside needs to be quiet. Otherwise, you will not hear it. Right?
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful leadership story as well, right? Because you say that you have to learn to trust, right? You have to learn to trust yourself. You have to learn to trust everyone around you, and then trust that you will make the right decisions. So it just transcends so many levels. Really. Thank you so much. Now, I am going to ask you one final question before I let you go. And that's a question based on the theme of this interview. So how are you living your life your way?
Trust my gut, I think, because it has worked so many times, I say, okay, then, I think I just better listen to it. And if it seems interesting, do it. I also am very fortunate to be in a position of privilege in the sense that I'm not expected to earn an income for the family. Therefore, I can then explore and do what I like without thinking, but will it earn me money? Because, I'm doing it just for the pure joy of it. But that is also one thing I've learned. If you do things for the pure joy of it,
the money will come. Yeah.
Money will come. That is also something I've learned. But of course, it started off in a way that I didn't have to think about it. Therefore, I could go and explore. I think I've also made use of that privilege and not squandered it. What I have probably done well is to not take my privilege for granted.
Correct.
Chance favors a prepared mind. So you have to keep doing the work day after day. How do I live my life my way is one thing I've internalized from the Gita completely. And I try to live my life that way, is do your work selflessly, 100% effort, 0% expectation. Like, it seems a very counterintuitive way to live your life, especially if you tell young people, like, how will I get anywhere if I don't want to go there? You have to aim for it. You do the work, boss. That is all you can control. Understand that the only thing you can control in this life is your effort and your reaction to situations. That I try to incorporate in my life a lot. So try and work just for the joy of it and because it must be done. That's really all.
Without expectation. That's something that I think, I don't know how many more years it's going to take me to get to that, but I think that's the dream.
It's a good thing to aim for. It's a good thing to aim for. Correct. And in the Gita also Krishna says that everything, even doing the right action or doing what is in tune with your nature. He doesn't even say right action. He says, like, there is no right or wrong action. There is only action and consequence. You have to pick the action whose consequence you can deal with, and what is in tune with your nature. Like, don't try to be somebody else. What Krishna says is that even picking the right action that aligns with your nature is a matter of practice. Nobody is born with it. You have to do the work. You have to be disciplined. You have to practice it. So if that is true, then even do your dharma without expectations is something that you must practice. It's not like some people naturally are like that. If the more you do it, the more it becomes second nature to you.
Correct.
That's all.
Correct.
So, yeah.
So true. So true. I have to say thank you. This has been an enlightening conversation. So thank you so much. We're going to send you a copy of our fabulous new personal almanac. It's a journal, it's an organizer, and so much more. It's a kind of all in one. And we're sending it to you as a thank you for sitting with us today.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Deepma. Thank you. This was great. Thank you so much. Bye.